Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And well, today is Monday Fun Day.
I stop what you're doing, cause I'm about to ruin the image of me that you're used to. I look money, a king bee making honey, see? Deep state, I hope you're ready for me. Now gather round, I'm the new sheriff in town. All my people rise up and stand your ground. Now drink up all the Diet Coke you got on your shelf. So just let me introduce myself, my name is Trump D. I like my mashed potatoes lumpy. Fake news, oh how I like to punk thee. That little sniper on the slope tin, he took a shot but he missed me. I don't fall, y'all, I'm like the ever ready bunny, still going strong and spunky. So put on your big boy pants, come on, let's do the dance.
The Trumpy dance is your chance to do the Trump.
Come on, do the Trumpy Trump. Come on and do the Trumpy Trump. Check me out, y'all, we do the Trumpy Trump. Just watch me do the Trumpy Trump. Do you know what I'm doing? We do the Trumpy Trump. Come on, everybody do the Trumpy Trump. It's time to do the Trumpy Trump, yeah.
Man, I love that song. One, because it's fun. And I think, when you consider all of the stuff that we deal with when it comes to politics and public policy, you know what? Excuse me. Sorry for the cough. It's always good to have a little bit of fun. So what I like about it is, number one, it's fun. But what I like about that video, too, is it's kind of funny because you got the conspiracy theorists all the way up for, Alex Jones up there doing it, doing the Trumpty Trump. You got RFK doing the Trumpty Trump. You've got what is his name? The head, all of a sudden now I forget his name. The Prime Minister of Argentina doing the Trumpty Trump. You got everybody doing the Trump. You have freaking John Jones, right? UFC legend doing the Trumpty Trump. And that's because it's funny. And you know what? It's funny because it's counterculture. And counterculture is all of these uptight people on the left who want you to be offended at every single thing that somebody says. The one thing people like about Donald Trump is whether you agree with him, whether you disagree with him, you pretty much know what he thinks. I mean, he doesn't do a very good job of hiding what he thinks. At least I don't think he's trying. So I don't know. I would really say it's a bad job, but you know what he thinks. And he has no shortage of being in front of the cameras and being out there with the microphones and telling people what he thinks. Unlike our previous president who, let's just say was, what's the word I'm looking for? Who was comatose most of the time that he was president. Anyway, we're here. We're having a good time. Mike, unfortunately, will not be with us today. So it's just going to be you and I. We're going to have a good time today. And we're going to start it off the way that we usually do. And that is with a quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start with the folks at Hitman Industries. They make rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase at any length at hitmanindustries.net. We got the California Republican Assembly, otherwise known as the conscience of the Republican Party. That's right, Ronald Reagan coined that phrase for them. Check them out and learn why at cragop.org. And then we've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market at hogholsters.com. Get your hog holster today on discount by using the discount code The Rundown. All caps, one word, no spaces, just like it is right up there at hogholsters.com. And then finally, there's the place where you can get all things tactical except the gun. They specialize in group sales. So get your group together, get your agency together, get your department together, and get on over to uscombatgear.com, the place where you can find all things tactical, except, of course, the gun. Also want to remind you, if you have not already done so, please take a moment and sign up for the 2A newsletter. Folks, this is the place where you can get all of your Second Amendment news, whether it's from the mainstream media, whether it's from the legacy media, whether it's from the 2A media, whether it's from blogs or vlogs. You will find it all right here. All you have to do is go to 2anews.us. That's 2anews.us. Hit the subscribe button, and then go ahead and enter in your email address, and you will be subscribed to get all of your 2A news delivered to you Monday through Friday in your email box. How cool could that be? I don't know if it can get any cooler than that. Not saying, just saying. Also want to let you know that if you're watching the program during the 3 o'clock hour on the West Coast or during the 6 o'clock hour on the East Coast, you're watching us live, which means we're taking your comments. We would love to hear what you have to say. And just know that the only requirement we have is be interesting. Just be a little bit interesting. But I will say this, messages with people that disagree with us go to the front. Why do they go to the front? Because it gives us a chance to do what we enjoy doing, which is basically, well, mocking you.
Oh, wow. Is that a mockingbird?
Man, is that a mockingbird? Is that a mockingbird?
That's right. We will mock you. All right. Over the weekend, something happened that the anti-gunners say never happens. And that is they never say, it's almost never, it never, ever, 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 never, ever happens. And that is a good guy with a gun confronting a bad guy with a gun. And, well, the good guy coming out on top. Now, you and I know that firearms are used more than 2 million times a year in self-defense. The overwhelming majority of the time, they never have to be fired. The simple presence, the simple brandishing of that firearm in a situation where one is being threatened, oftentimes, more often than not, is enough to end the threat to life and property. But in this particular case, there was an individual who was involved in a shooting there in Idaho, and let's just say he wasn't. He was stopped by a good guy with a gun. Let me go ahead and I'm going to play this little story. So this will kind of let you see some of the video. And then after that, I'm going to play a little bit of the press conference from the police chief from that area.
So we got an update on the In-N-Out shooting that took place in Idaho today. That's actually reportedly one of the shooters that was shooting the windshield of a Tesla. Not sure quite why. They haven't publicly identified this person just yet, but I'm sure they will. But as of August 1st of 2026, Twin Falls police responded to a active shooter situation that took place at a newly opened In-N-Out Burger at the 1965 Blue Lakes Boulevard North in the Canyon Rim area near Twin Falls Visitor Center and a busy commercial district with retailers, hotels, and a mall. The report came in around 2:30 to 3 o'clock p.m. local time, and witnesses described hearing dozens of gunshots. Social media videos posted showed a bunch of people running around and at least one man with what appeared to be a rifle firing, including at a parked Tesla with unclear occupancy. I also saw another video that was recorded from the In-N-Out Burger that showed it looked like somebody that had pulled out a suppressed pistol or sidearm, and it looked like they were trying to engage the shooter. Not sure if that person was trying to shoot the shooter or if they were just involved in it in some way. Still kind of unclear. That being said, as of the latest official reports, the Twin Falls City spokesperson Josh Palmer confirmed at least 3 people have been killed and 2 people have been injured, although he also noted that the injured number was expected to rise, and they haven't given out any identity.
All right, so that was like right as it was happening. We're talking about right after it was happening. Well, later there was a press conference that was held, and a gentleman here with the police department decided to share a few more details with folks, and that's what you're going to hear right now.
Yesterday at 2:29 p.m., multiple 911 calls were received by the Twin Falls City Communications Center. Dispatchers could hear screaming and reports of gunshots in the background. Officers from our department, along with officers from local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies, all converged to the incident. Fire and medical personnel from the Twin Falls Fire Department and Magic Valley paramedics also responded. First responders faced what was described as one of the most chaotic instances a law enforcement officer can face in their career. Law enforcement began to search for the suspect, as well as assisting medical personnel to the scene safely and providing first aid and transporting those in need to our local hospital. Our department has been in constant contact with the In-N-Out management, and they are actively assisting us in the investigation. At this time, we can confirm that there are multiple victims. Based on the information currently available, there are 3 victims that are deceased. 7 others are injured. 2 of those patients have been treated and released. 3 are in stable condition, and 2 are in critical condition. These numbers are preliminary and may be updated as we continue to work with our medical providers, investigators, and partnering agencies. Out of respect for the victims and their families, who have all not been notified at this time, we will not be releasing the identities of them today. I want to thank St. Luke's and their medical staff for their assistance and their extraordinary care during this difficult time.
Okay, so that was from the police chief, but let me read a little bit of the story here once again. This is from the Idaho Statesman. It says Jordan Salinas and his girlfriend had planned a quiet Saturday starting with horseback riding in Hagerman. Safely out of cell phone range, they stopped for lunch in Twin Falls. He thought, then hit the highway west. All was going according to plan. Salinas pulled into the In-N-Out Burger off Blue Lakes Boulevard around 2:30 p.m. Chaos followed as he saw scores of people fleeing through the doors. He figured it was a kitchen fire, and then he heard a pop, pop, pop of gunfire. Salinas ran toward it, an automatic response, mechanical, he'd say later. The last thing he remembers hearing was his girlfriend shouting his name, Jordan. And then the shooting started again. The 35-year-old from Kimberly had unwittingly rolled into a mass shooting that would leave 3 victims dead and at least 7 others wounded on the edge of the Snake River Canyon. And he did what he could to stop it. Salinas reached for his shoulder holster and drew his FN-57, a semi-automatic pistol with a suppressor fixed to the barrel. He worked through the framework he'd practiced for years. Salinas is a healthcare worker, the full-time caregiver of his wheelchair-bound brother. He began training seriously after a 2001 shooting in Boise Town Square Mall killed 2 people and injured several more. Gunmen, he said, went after soft targets, a person in a wheelchair, and the aide at his side would be as soft as they come, he reasoned. He started taking his training seriously that day, he told the Idaho Statesman on Sunday. He shoots on weekends and trains in the desert outside of Eden, a small town in eastern Jeremy County. He never pointed his gun at so much as an animal, he said, and never thought he'd need to use it to use anything he practiced. Yet he drilled a 4-step approach borrowed from the military every week, always the same. Observe. Salinas ran from the car, gun drawn. Video posted to social media shows the man slinking behind In-N-Out signs and shrubs, seeking out the source of the gunfire. Orient. Hidden from view, he established sight lines. He reminded himself to stay disciplined on the trigger. Soon, he saw a man who police later identified as 24-year-old Chad Williams standing by the drive-through window. He watched as Williams lifted a rifle to his shoulder and fired toward cars. Decide. Okay, Salinas thought, this is the guy. Act. He leveled his pistol in both hands and fired. Quote, he did not like it when bullets started firing both ways, Salinas said Sunday morning. And I think this is the most important thing that people need to understand. It isn't even always about whether or not you hit the individual. Now, mind you, you are responsible for every round you fire. You need to practice the firearm safety. And this guy did exactly what he was supposed to do. Look, he didn't just rush into danger, right? He drew his weapon. He sought cover and concealment to the degree that he could. He identified the threat, and he made a decision that, okay, somebody needs to take this guy down, because it didn't appear like anybody else was going to be able to take him down. Now, this guy was engaged with law enforcement who evidently had been hit. Now, I still don't know to this point whether or not who took out the guy, if the guy killed himself or if he was taken out by the officer. But here's the thing that we know. Usually people who engage in these sorts of things, as soon as they are engaged by someone with a gun, whether it is law enforcement or is an armed citizen, they almost always do one of 2 things, or do 2 things together. They retreat, and oftentimes they take their own life, because they look for, as this guy said, soft targets, which I'm wondering, in Idaho, I mean, Idaho is about as non-soft a place as you will ever find. To engage in something like this in Idaho is probably pretty dumb. Because I would not be surprised if there were multiple people. This was a recently opened In-N-Out Burger. I would not be surprised if there were multiple people in cars who were armed. Now, why some of them did not decide to get out, or maybe somebody did it and do something, I don't know. And then once again, there's no guarantees. I don't know for sure. But I would not be surprised if there were other individuals, some of which decided, you know what, the best thing to do, the best way to win a gunfight is to not engage in one. So as soon as they heard the pop, 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 they got out of there. That's not a wrong response, right? You're carrying a firearm for to defend yourself, to defend your family, to defend others. Not everybody's going to step up and be the hero to defend others, but they're at least in a position to defend themselves. And sometimes that defense means, yeah, I'm just going to get up out of here. I'm not going to hang around to be a part of this gunfight. This was an individual, though, who decided, you know what, I'm going to engage. And hats off to him, because this is what people say never happens. But as I said in the very beginning, you and I know, reports have already polled, studies have already shown, 2 million times a year, people draw their firearms, or firearms are involved in situations where they defend life and property, right? And like I said, I'll repeat it again. The overwhelming majority of the times, they never have to fire. Weapon comes out, bad guy gets ghost. That's usually what winds up happening. But in this case, he wound up firing. In this case, he engaged this guy. And what's great about it is this. Once he engaged this guy, unarmed citizens were a lot less likely to be in trouble, to be in danger, because this individual now, well, he's got a choice to make. Right? He knows that shots are being fired at him. So his choices are either engage the person shooting at him and defend himself from the person who's trying to defend other people, or run. Either way, he is now disengaged from shooting at innocent, unarmed victims. This is why I don't understand why people are so against the idea of law-abiding citizens being able to carry firearms. Overwhelmingly, these are, once again, people who carry firearms, especially with concealed carry permits, are overwhelmingly they're overwhelmingly law-abiding citizens. I don't know if this guy had a concealed carry permit. It didn't say that he did, but I'm willing to bet that I'm pretty sure Idaho's is a constitutional carry state, so he didn't need one. But obviously, this was a good guy with a gun. Once again, engaging a bad guy with a gun. And let me tell you, before you start to say, well, but what about the bad guys with the gun? The bad guys don't need permission to carry a gun. They're going to carry it anyway. This guy had a long gun. He didn't need any permission to carry that. He really didn't. Whether it was legal for him to have it or not, whether it was legal for him to do what he did or not, it was illegal for him to shoot people. It was illegal for him to even fire that firearm in public without cause. He broke a number of laws, and we don't even know if he owned the firearm legally, if he was in legal possession of the firearm. This is all stuff that we're going to find out over time. But what we do know is, once again, a good guy with a gun defended the innocent. I had a board member. He has since passed away, but he was very good guy. I love this dude. I love him to death. He was a very good board member, but he was very liberal, and his attitude where he was like, one day he said to me, and this was before in California, before they banned the ability of concealed carry permit holders to possess a firearm on school grounds, he had said, I just don't know if I feel comfortable around somebody carrying a gun. And I looked at him and I said I said his name, and I said, you and I have known each other for more than a few years, for over a decade. And do you know every single time you've been around me, including in board meetings, I had a gun on me. And I tell you that because I want you to understand it's not me bragging. I don't talk about it. I don't openly, I don't do anything to let you know those things. But I want you to understand something. We're a small district, right? We're a small board. We don't have a big budget. We don't have a bunch of people that we can pay a bunch of money to do security for our board meetings. But here's the thing. If somebody came into this board meeting angry and upset, and they decided they wanted to take it out on us or on the crowd there, first of all, this would have been seemingly a soft target. The only thing standing between that individual and you would have been me. And, nowadays that would be an unarmed me because I can't carry a gun at school grounds anymore. But that's the sort of stuff that people just don't understand. This guy saved untold number of lives. He did. And this is not the first time this has happened. The mainstream media is not going to talk a lot about it. But this is not the first time that this has happened. It's not even the first time this year that it's happened. There was an incident in Southern California of all places, Los Angeles of all places, where a guy walks into a barbecue place, Lucille's, with a knife, and he starts going after people. And once again, concealed carry permit holder pulls out a gun, warns the guy to stop. Guy doesn't stop, kills him. Shoots him and kills him. Now, this guy may face charges because he was carrying in a restaurant that serves alcohol. What if he hadn't been? How many people would have been killed? I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 5? We don't know. Do you know how many people were killed? Let me clarify. How many innocent people were killed because he was there? None. Absolutely none. And oh, by the way, this was in a place where there was an armed off-duty officer who didn't do anything. So for those of you who are like, oh, well, the cops will save us. No. And by the way, this is no disparaging that particular law enforcement officer. I don't know what the deal was with him. I don't know what happened. Maybe he was in another part of the restaurant when this was going down and the armed citizen was closer. We don't know. All I know is that oftentimes law enforcement is minutes away when seconds matter. And so realize this, you are your own first responder, right? You don't wait for paramedics for example, if you know how to give CPR. If someone has a heart attack and you know how to give CPR, you know how to use a defibrillator, you don't wait for paramedics to show up. You're the first responder. If a fire breaks out and you have access to a fire extinguisher, you don't wait for the fire department to show up. You grab the fire extinguisher and you attempt to put the fire out. Right? That's what you do. And if you have a firearm, if you are in possession of a firearm, if you can be in possession of a firearm, and a situation where an armed individual or an individual seeks to take the life of someone there, seeks to do damage to someone there, you're then in a position to do what you need to do in order to prevent that from happening. There is nothing wrong with that. And it is sad that so many people, so many gun grabbers don't care. They just flat out don't care. They'd rather see you dead. They'd rather see some innocent person dead than to allow you to, be able to be in a position to be able to be that first responder. Kind of sad. All right, moving right along to our next story. FBI is warning of cyber attacks on multiple municipal water systems. This being reported by Breitbart. And I don't know why I didn't see this in most other mainstream, but some mainstream media are talking about this. It says here, FBI has issued an urgent warning after hackers targeted multiple municipal water systems in at least 7 states over the past week, prompting concerns about vulnerability of critical water infrastructure across the nation. NBC News reports that the FBI and the EPA released joint public service announcement warning water and wastewater utilities nationwide that malicious cyber actors are attempting to disrupt critical water infrastructure. Water utilities in multiple states have reported cybersecurity incidents, the agencies said, and some attacks have degraded water operations. The warning follows a breach in Minnesota where hackers targeted more than 30 municipal water facilities in an attack. Emily Zimmer, a spokesman for Minnesota's Information Technology Services Agency, said Thursday there is no indication that breaches had contaminated any municipal water supplies. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency issued a separate alert saying some larger attacks on water infrastructure had led to boil water notices and sustained manual operations through, though it did not disclose the locations. Neither Minnesota officials nor the federal government have publicly attributed the activity in Minnesota to specific threat actor. The FBI and EPA also did not identify who was responsible for the breaches reported in another 6 states. Folks, this is kind of a new thing for us. And cyber attacks on whether it's on key infrastructure, whether it's water, whether it's traffic cams or traffic lights, whether it's our electrical grid, whether it is refineries. These are a real thing. These are a real threat. And companies, and not just companies, but governments are going to need to make sure to invest to make sure that we can protect folks from this stuff. And by the way, those that are privately held, like the refineries, those companies are going to need to make sure that they are investing, that they have enough resources to invest in making sure that they protect us. Because here's the deal. If we lose access to our water infrastructure, what then? I mean, it's funny. I watch all of these shows. I love like the undead shows, The Walking Dead and whatnot. But I realize far more people are going to die from infections, are going to die from dehydration and starvation. Should there be any sort of a world-ending catastrophe event, a number of people, that's going to be a big thing. And so protecting our infrastructure is going to be vitally important. Now, I'm real interested to see exactly who some of these actors are. Would I be surprised if it was Iran? No, I would not. Would I be surprised if it was Russia or China? No, I would not. Folks, we have real enemies out there. And these folks are not playing. They will do whatever it is that they can do to get us. And if it's not directly them, I would not be surprised if they were being funded as a proxy by one of those countries that I just mentioned. So anyway, I would spend some time, check with your local water agency, find out what sort of money are they investing in cybersecurity? What sort of resources are they putting into making sure that they have backups and backups on top of backups in case there is a breach in some of these areas? This is the sort of thing that we as citizens should know, right? We should take the time to find out at the very least. All right, updates on the reflecting pool case, and that you might remember there was a former Olympian who was arrested, who was charged with messing with the reflecting pool or damaging the reflecting pool. Well, as it turns out, that case is actually being dropped. This being reported by WUSA 9. Says case against former Olympian David Hearn dropped due to new evidence. Attorneys demand apology. Says here, Washington, just hours after former Olympian David Hearn's felony case was dropped by United States Attorney for D.C., his legal team is demanding an apology. In a statement, his attorneys told WUSA 9 the Trump administration's case against David Hearn should never have been brought. Its dismissal today does not erase the abuse of government power in arresting and charging a patriotic American who did nothing wrong. The government's approach was ready, fire, aim, and the administration owes Mr. Hearn an apology. In a motion filed Friday, the United States Attorney's Office for D.C. said it was dropping the case after new evidence showed the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool was already damaged before Hearn was accused of vandalizing it. They blamed the Department of the Interior for not properly sharing evidence for the case that showed the damage was, quote, the result of flawed installation by the contractor Atlantic Industrial Coatings and the rush to complete the project prior to events associated with the America 250 celebration. They noted they would not have sought a grand jury indictment if DOI had been forthcoming with the information that they had. Quote, if potentially going to put someone's friend, family, themselves in a predicament of having to face a felony, going to court multiple times, arguing before the court that they should be out on bond, there needs to be an initial investigation, said Adam Van Grack, Rockville council member. And so let's just be clear. And this is, one, I want to thank, by the way, U.S. Attorney Pirro, she's catching a lot of flack from the president because the president's saying she caved too easily, that this should not have been done, that these cases should not have been dropped. I'm like this. Janine Pirro is a fan of the president. She likes the president. She loves the president. I have a feeling that knowing what sort of poop will rain down on her if when she did this, what sort of criticism would be coming from the White House, my guess is the evidence clearly probably showed that it was a flawed installation. And, the president, just hearing about it, is angry and frustrated because he didn't think it should have been dropped. But you know what? This is what happens when you do a rush job. I hate to say it, but that's what happened. You put a rush on it, ask for a rush job, get a rush product. And that's exactly what it sounds like happened here. And I do believe that the presidents, that they owe this gentleman, they owe him an apology. No, I think the Department of Interior, who had the evidence, who held on to the evidence, who didn't reveal the evidence, they're the ones that actually owe this individual an apology. I'm wondering how much communication took place between the U.S. Attorney and the White House before they did this, before they went ahead and let this go. I think it might have been nice if they had some conversations with them so that they didn't get thrown under the bus the way, sometimes President Trump tends to do. Let's be honest, he does tend to do that at times when somebody doesn't do what he wants. We've seen him do it with the Supreme Court. We've seen it. Well, we saw it happen with Bill Barr when Bill Barr was his attorney general. When someone doesn't do something that you want, that Trump wants, he does have a tendency to throw him under the bus. The man ain't perfect. He's not, and I'm not going to sit here and claim that he is. I just think that it'd be nice if he was a little less like that. How about that? Anyway, I'm glad to see him. At least I'm believing that justice has been done here. Once again, they probably really need to go after this contractor to make sure the job gets done right. That now brings us to, by the way, job getting done right. Sports officiating has always been kind of a bit of a quagmire, and it seems like the lower you get on the rung, the worse the officiating gets. And nothing is worse. Well, nothing is lower on the rung right now at professional sports than women's basketball, women WNBA basketball. But interesting thing happened to Sophie Cunningham. Now you might recall Sophie Cunningham is the one who's popular for the point thing, right? She was the one who's doing the point thing. She's a teammate of Caitlin Clark, and she's defended Caitlin Clark on the court because, well, let's just say she has been attacked multiple times by players. And when I say attacked, I mean just harder than usual fouls. It happens a lot more often than should happen. And there's tons of videos on YouTube or on Twitter or you can go anywhere and find videos of Caitlin Clark getting jacked up. But one day she was asked about her position on men and women's sports, or on trans women participating in basketball, and she didn't offer it. She was asked a question and she answered it, and she was basically said, "I don't believe that men should be playing in women's sports. I don't believe that boys should be playing in girls' sports. There's a reason why we have a Title IX, and that's because men have a physical advantage." And she didn't want to be a spokesperson for it. Didn't want to be too political. She said she didn't want to be too political. Anyway, all that having been said, over the weekend there was an incident where she was fouled. Now, I want you to take a look at this play, and I want you to tell me if you think, and you don't have to be a basketball expert, right, to know whether or to see whether or not this is a foul. I'm going to say this is not a foul. In fact, this is more of an offensive foul if it's anything, but I want y'all to take a look at it real quick.
How about a WNBA refs? This is just a defensive foul. Thank you for the review. Just a defensive foul. No hostile act, just a foul on Sophie Cunningham. They call that a foul on Sophie Cunningham. She's got 14 of her teeth on the ground. That's a defensive foul. And they reviewed it for a hostile act. Yeah, Sophie's saying, hey, I just got my jaw broke. Is this a political stance? You just took 14 of my teeth. Quiet, Sophie, no big deal. A defensive foul. Let's watch this one more time. This is on Sophie? No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. Elbow to the jaw to 14 teeth gone. That's offensive, bruh. Yeah, Sophie, you got your face knocked in. We see it.
So now I know in basketball there's this thing where, if someone turned around, she was on her pretty tight, right? She was on her pretty close. And I get that. So something like that, when you swing your arm around, something like that is going to happen. But to call that a defensive foul when she got hit in the face. Now, by the way, this is not unprecedented, because the exact same thing happened a couple of decades ago with the Sacramento Kings and the Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron swung around and clocked Doug Christie in the face just like that. So LeBron James, playing for the Lakers, swung around and clocked Doug Christie in the face just like that, and Doug Christie got called for the foul. So it's not unprecedented. But they didn't have a review back then. This is a review. This was a reviewable play. At the very least, she should have been called for a foul. Because she was so close, I don't know that it was an offensive foul, but it definitely wasn't a defensive foul. But this is what happens when you start talking politics. When you start having, for example, the funny part about all of this is that you had the coach on the other team had a T-shirt promoting trans kids or trans boys and trans girls and trans women in women's sports. This was a woman who basically, it's funny because the coach of her team said that she's not science. She doesn't understand the science well enough to know that if men or women should be, that if men, biological men should be able to compete in women's sports. That's akin to I don't know because I'm not a biologist. I can't define what a woman is because I'm not a biologist. Anyway. It is friggin' crazy out there. It really is. I don't get exactly what's going on here. All I know is it appears like, and this is the thing the WNBA is going to have to deal with. It appears like if you are not on a part of the political left, if you're not carrying the water for the political left, then you're subject to whatever they decide they're going to do to you. Anyway. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. Anyway, before we get into our parting shots, I got a couple of comments here. We have Wallace Dunn, who is watching us over on Facebook. He says, this guy is a definite hero. There is a video out there showing him in full tactical kit and drawing a stupid cross chest draw. Please do not do this. There is no way you can draw like that without flagging your support arm. I would probably tend to agree with you. They definitely owe him they said they definitely owe that dude an apology. That's the guy. I guess he's Kevin. Yeah, by the way, that's Kevin Sona, the founder of 2A Freedom Fest, which is going to be taking place in Florida, Tampa, Florida, I think it's the February 6th, 2027. Looking forward to that. Anyway, he said they definitely owe that guy an apology. The guy who was the Olympian who was sued. I don't disagree with you. They definitely owe him an apology. And then finally says, Craig, you're wrong. This isn't what happens when you talk politics in sport. It's what happens when you talk about the wrong politics in sports. Yeah, you would be correct, Kevin. I received my correction appropriately. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Go to hogholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces, one word. Get your hog holster today. All right, this first one here is, this is kind of in line with what they're talking about, men and women's sports. This is a cartoon for those of you who are just listening to the program. It says here, it's got this dude in a big rainbow-colored jersey, and he's kind of a big dude looking down at the coach and says, "Can I play in the WNBA?" And the coach here, once again, the one who had their comment said, "I'm not educated enough to say, but exclusion is not the answer." No, I would definitely say exclusion is the answer, unless, of course, you're looking for a kind of a Joanna Man type of situation. Now, these next three are going to be brought to you by our friends over at the Babylon Bee, fake news that you can trust. It says here, Democrats express concern over increase in gun violence against active shooters. Yeah, because we can't be shooting active shooters. Not saying, just saying. This one is actually introduced by a fan over at the Babylon Bee. It says, Taco Bell assures customers they will only get regular diarrhea from now on. And they got a nice little graphic here to go with it. It says, "There's quality you can trust. Diarrhea comparison, explosive diarrhea." It's got a little cross through it. And then it says, check mark next to the regular diarrhea. Good stuff, good stuff. And then finally, WNBA coach stumped as to what the W stands for. Why is that not hilarious? I mean, why is that hilarious? I don't understand. It's kind of simple, but it is frigging hilarious. All right, folks, that now brings us to the end of our program. But before we go, we're going to give one more quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start with Hitman Industries. They make rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase at any length at hitmanindustries.net. The California Republican Assembly, the conscience of the Republican Party. Learn more at cragop.org. There's the Hog Holsters, the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market at hogholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com, helping Americans wear guns. And then finally, the place where you can find all things tactical except the gun, and that would be at uscombatgear.com. And once again, folks, that's going to be it for today's program. We appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program and encouraging your friends to do the same. We will be back tomorrow on Taco Tuesday. Till then, y'all have fun. Stay safe. We'll see you mañana.